Hey y'all, welcome back. Okay. All right, y'all. I wanted to address something and I thought I would do it here because I'm all about a teaching opportunity, right? And I got to check on the little dog because she be doing a lot. So I thought, hey, let me just kind of teach you something. Maybe not. Maybe somebody is not wanting to be taught, and I get that. Not everybody is receptive to the things that the Lord will have us to share, but I am going to do my level best to share anyway because I believe that it can be valuable to somebody, maybe. At least that's what my prayer is. My prayer is always that is valuable to somebody, the things that I share. Although I know it may not be valuable to everybody. Hey, Miss Sue, good to see you. Let me know where you're chiming in from. Hey, Tiff. Hey, friend. Happy Thanksgiving. Why did I forget to message you yesterday? I'm so sorry. Will you please forgive me? Because I meant to text you. And I think my mind just, bloop. I ended up at the gym and my mind was just gone. After that workout, honey, when she did that clean and lunge, I said, oh, blessed be Jesus. I got to get up out of here. So I apologize. So anyway, I wanted to address something and I want to kind of share and hopefully encourage, teach a little bit some things from Ohio. Thank you for chiming in. Hey, Instagram, let me know where you're chiming in from. So not earlier today, yesterday, I posted a reel on all my major platforms. I usually post the same thing platform wide. Just because I did it once and I only have to just go to a different thing and hit post and it just works out. So I posted a video of me doing a solo Thanksgiving. And the caption said, here's what I eat when I'm having Thanksgiving alone. So I didn't post that post for sympathy. It's never that. And I didn't post it so people could, I didn't even think it was going to do anything, really. I mean, the Lord told me to post it, but I did not think it was going to do anything. Well, if you joined me this morning, you saw that the post was over 100,000 views. Well, actually, the post is now almost at 400,000 views. But with posts like that, you get a lot of comments. And I did not realize that there were just some mean and hateful, nasty, rude comments. Honestly, just some rude things. Now I see why her husband divorced her. Well, I was the one who initiated the divorce. What do you know about anything? And those things tend to bother me a little bit because you don't know me. And here you are. Hey, Kim, here you are chiming in. I'm going to go back and watch your video. I saw it come through and then I ended up at the gym and had an appointment after that. And I was like, man, I want to go back and see what's going on over there with Kim. So I'm going to go back and look at it. And anyway, can't hear me. Can you hear me? Tiffany, you responded to me, right? On Instagram. Will you let me know if you can? I feel like I'm shouting. So if you can't hear, you may want to go out and come back in. Oh, terrible. It was terrible. It's really terrible. Just people being themselves and feeling entitled to have a say in your life. And I do understand that when you're on social media, it's just going to be like that. Like I get it. But some things are just not necessary to say. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't know why my ex-husband is not with me anymore. Still can't hear. Anybody else on Instagram, can you hear me? If anybody else on Instagram can hear, will you let me know? Because it could just be Instagram. Because over here on the other platforms, they can hear me. Sorry, y'all. I try my best. Instagram don't always want me to be great. Okay. I am live on Facebook if you want to join me over there. Okay. Or if one of my YouTube folks can go to Instagram and tell me, because I don't have a lot of interaction on Instagram. But anyway, I'm going to share this and move on. So I expect to get some comments, but I don't expect to get things like that. Or, oh, she can't cook because you're supposed to make cornbread from scratch. Ma'am, it's just me. I just wanted to do something quick for Shakima. I wasn't trying to be scratching stuff. Jackson makes enough from scratch, but you haven't been here long enough And again, you feel entitled to your opinion. So some of those things you have to let pass over you. But another comment came through, and I responded to this one, and they were very gracious, that said, I would not let my mother be alone by herself on Thanksgiving. We are doing well, Missy. Thank you for asking. My family's well, and we hope yours is as well. And that comment, I wouldn't let my mom be by herself on Thanksgiving. And so I, responded, and I said, well, this is just something that we have had in place. He gets Thanksgiving, I get Christmas. That's just how. You can hear me, Kim? Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's just how we arranged it so that there would be no misunderstandings. So just a little bit of backstory. I've been divorced 15 years. I've been separated a year and divorced 14 years. So in total, separated and divorced 15 years. So this isn't a new thing. It's not like all of a sudden today we decided that the kids were going to go with their dad and I was just going to be here by myself, because somebody else responded. They said, well, you ain't got no cousins or brothers or sisters or nothing like that can invite you. And I said to them, I'm not lonely. I'm just by myself. That means there's nobody else in the house. So there's a difference between being alone and being lonely, right? So you have to explain that sometimes as well. So, I was thinking about that comment about the mom. Hey, Eve, good to see you, girl. About mom being alone. And I get that. And I understand that there are some people who would make that decision and say, no, I'm not going to let mom be by herself on Thanksgiving because she's mom. And I got to thinking about that. But what about dad? Like, if you want to have a successful co-parenting relationship, do we not have to have take everybody into account with what is happening and what's going on? Because if you don't, then you're going to have so many problems right here at the holidays. Here's what you have already. You have high emotions. I don't care how long it has been since the divorce. My divorce was 14 years ago, with a year being separated in North Carolina. Somebody's divorce can be 15 days ago. And so if we don't understand that there are always emotions happening here during the holidays, because at this stage of the game, my children are all adults except my youngest son, and they can decide that they don't want to go with dad for the holidays. If they don't want to, they can say, hey, we are staying home with you, mom. We just don't feel like doing all the traveling and whatever the case is. But I share all that to say, when my children were very little, let me see. Okay, see, no, if I turn on that, it makes me hear myself, and I don't want to do that. When my kids were little, okay, Jackson was 4 months old when his dad left. He and I had to come up with a workable plan for everybody concerned around holidays. He has his family, I got my family. The families were used to us doing a certain thing when we were together, and now we're not together. So now we have to split the difference and what's best for the children. Some families even allow their children to make the decision on what they want to do. And I would caution against this, because you're asking children who, by all intents and purposes, for where we live, can't even vote until they're 18. They can't buy alcohol until they're 21, or tobacco products until they're 21. And so you want to give an adult decision to a child to make. And so, oh, see, and that becomes an issue as well, right? The comment says, when the news got out that I use these holidays to by myself just as a rest time, all the visits stopped. So now you have somebody who's saying, oh, you gonna rest? Oh, no, you're not, because I'm not coming in to do my part. So first of all, out the gate, divorce is hard. Separation is hard. If we've never been married and we have kids, it's still hard, especially when the parents aren't together. It's hard when you're together trying to navigate all of this. But when you're not together, it's even harder, because yes, now we have two homes, two sets of rules, two sets of this, and two sets of, it's all just all the things. For my sanity's sake, and for his, I hope, we decided, that was him and I sat down and I came up with a workable plan for me. And I said to him, will any of this work for you? This was when it was every other weekend. I was planning to be Stella and get my groove back. I was trying to be outside then. I'm outside now, but I was really trying to be outside then. And I just had a list of all the things. I can drive them this far. I can come this time. And why did you do that, Shakima? Because I didn't want my children to go through any more stress. Because whether we believe it or not, whatever we feel as what? Brenda, hey, go to bed. Whatever we feel as the adults, our kids feel it all the more. They're so open to all of us that they feel it all the more. And they want to be loyal to this parent, but they also want to be loyal to this parent. So when the parents are right at each other, your kids are going to feel that. Yes, I divorced my ex-husband. He didn't divorce me. I divorced him. But our family feels the effects of the divorce. And so that's a challenging situation, even still now, that I try to be the medium, I try to be the go-between, the middleman, to make sure I'm doing my part. Because I never wanted my children to say, Mom didn't let me go to my dad's, or Mom kept me away from my dad. Because I can be public enemy number one, especially when those kids are with you 364 days a year. Right? When my kids are here with me, it's all year long. He just comes at Thanksgiving because he lives so far apart now. So there is no every other weekend. There is no in the summer. There's none of that. There's Thanksgiving. And so while I would have loved to have my children home, we actually did Thanksgiving last week. While I would love to have my children home, Thanksgiving was never my holiday. My family never got together for Thanksgiving. It was always with my ex-husband's family. And so that's just something that they have always been used to. So we came up with, okay, Thanksgiving would be your holiday. Christmas is my holiday. Well, that even got shifted a little bit as well because he was feeling in his feelings when the kids were younger. He don't feel this way now. When they were younger and he didn't get to see the kids on Christmas. So then I shifted my Christmas dinner to a Christmas breakfast. And I said to him, at noon, you can have the kids. They have to be at their house to open up their gifts. They have to sleep as long as they want. I shifted from a big dinner meal to a big breakfast meal, and I still spend Christmas evening by myself. Well, I have in the past years, not since they've been a little older now. But I did all of that again to make sure that there was no anxiety with my kids. I don't know who to be with. I don't know who to be loyal to. Mom's going to be mad if I want to be with dad. Dad's going to be mad if I want to be with mom. Like, we get to make that choice and decision as their parents. Were we not the ones who laid down and had them? So if that's the case, then shouldn't we be the ones to sit down and discuss it? We should be, or we should be able to discuss it. And most people want to have contention, and we're gonna be mad, and I got all this stuff in all these feelings and emotions from why he left and what he did. None of that is relevant now. We are divorced. What is relevant is that we make sure as the parents of our children that they have a smooth transition between my home and his home, or my home and his family home, because my children don't go to his house. I don't know if they're not welcomed. I know they went once. In all of these years, they went once. Now, when he sees them, they just go to the family house, my ex-in-laws. And that has worked out perfectly for us. It's worked out perfectly for me because I don't have anybody else in their life telling them stuff. His wife doesn't want to be involved. That's her choice. We invited her to be involved. She chose not to. Period. That's perfect. But I was not going to be the bad ex-wife. I was not going to be the terrible baby mama. I wasn't going to be the one that said, no, they can't do this. No, they can't do that. No, no, no. And we've had our moments of discussion. But again, we came to the table and I said, okay, this is what I'm comfortable with. And he would look at stuff and he was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. Okay, what are you comfortable with? because I can get just as emotion filled as anybody. But is that going to make the situation better? I came to the table for resolve because we have kids. We're always going to have kids. Here's the thing that you don't know, maybe most of us don't know, that we need to know. You're always going to be attached to that person, because now my children are adults, but my older children are at the stage where they're going to start having children. So we're going to have to figure out, are we going to granddaddy's house or are we going to honey's house? Are we going to this? Are we going to that? Is mama going to have to come? Well, what if mom and daddy both want to come at the same time? Well, hey, I'm going to come 3 days before Christmas and you come 2 days after Christmas. So you still going to have to figure it out, because you're always attached to that person for the rest of your life. And I think the mature thing, because that's the title, the mature thing for me was to not make it personal between us, but to make it about the children. I don't ask the children what they want, but I do think about what's most beneficial for the children when dad and I are together. Does that make sense? When we have to make a together decision, then I would say to him, okay, here's what we're dealing with. Let's go ahead and make the decision. And then we disseminate that information to the children. Does that make sense? I think a lot of couples now just like the drama. Maybe I'm just seeing too much social media where we're just fighting back and forward with each other. Who says that we have to always have drama just because we're not together? And I like that, Eve. I was just getting ready to address that as well. She said her only issue with sharing the holidays is not making plans in advance. She chose joint custody for the sake of the child. And that is a very mature thing to do for the sake of the child. But then that was the same thing, right? Because my ex would wait till the last minute and he want to give me instructions. Sir, that does not work for me. What I need for us to do is to come up with these plans in advance. My life is planned out. I know exactly what I'm doing today. I know what I'm doing tomorrow. I know what I'm doing 3 months from now. So I'm going to need for you to at least give me yay much in advance, because I got all these parts moving. I got after school activities. I got sports. I got lunches. I got taekwondo when they were traveling. I got all these pieces, and you just get to ride in on the day you coming. So are you coming? Because then some of those days would change. He would say, I'm coming, then he wouldn't come. Okay, I need for you. And this again was that communication. It wasn't always easy in the very beginning. There were moments and days and months and weeks and years where he didn't understand where I was coming from. And I had to come from a mature stance to say, I'm not trying to keep you away from your children. What I am asking you to do is work with me, because I got too many pieces moving here. And if I know in advance, then I can get them. I got to pack everybody. When they were little, I got to pack everybody. My son has asthma. I got to make sure he has the machine and all the medicines that go with this. I got to make sure we have any doctor's visits. I got to get the parent book together, because I had a parent book for his care. Like my younger children knew how to give care more than dad, because that wasn't something that he did. He left when Jackson was 4 months old. He had never been through all of the asthma. He had come when right after Jackson had gotten sick the very first year. I was in the hospital with Jackson, but he had come right after that because it was Christmas. But he had never been with Jackson through an episode. He had never been with Jackson when we had to go to the emergency room. So my kids who were here with me knew that. So I had to put together a parent book. Here's who you call. Here's the doctor. And I would have to tell the doctor, okay, if dad calls, this is why. All of those little pieces. So I had to talk to him very civilly, very classy, very demure, to say, listen, this is not personal about you and I. This is about the children. And if we want our children to be good as they continue to grow, then we got to work together. And it was hard for us, because there was a lot of personal stuff. There was no closure when we got divorced. We just got divorced because I was getting divorced. I'm not staying married to you one more moment longer. And that was my choice and decision to make. There was nothing closed. This is it, finality. But I still had those children, and I needed to make sure that even in the transition phase, there were no bumps in the plan. I know some people have to meet at the police station because they have no civility towards each other. And so in order to exchange children, we got to meet at the police station just in case one of the parents decide to go off crazy on each other. Like, why is that a thing? First of all, going speaking on a mature level, because I'm 48 years old and he's over 50. If we can't get this thing together, we are the ones with issues. But if my children see all of this contention between their parents, then they're going to be contentious with their spouses or their relationships because that's what they learned. That's what I learned when I was growing up, that there was always contention in relationships. And so I try to bring that to the relationship when I got in one. Praise the Lord that the Lord got my mind together, and I don't deal with those. I don't do contention. So it's never been a problem for my ex-husband to show up at my house to pick up his kids. These are your children. Of course you can come to their house and pick them up. What do you mean? We got to meet somewhere. No. Even when they were little, and because we were 4 hours apart at that point, I would drive halfway. I didn't have to drive anyway because I had the kids all the time. I am the primary parent. But in order to make it easier for him to see his children, I would drive halfway on a Friday and I would drive halfway on a Sunday to pick them up. Little known fact, and I'm not telling anybody to do this, but for the first year we were separated. When he would come here for those drive here those 4 hours, I would pack a bag and go stay at my sister's house, and I would let him stay in my house with his kids for the weekend, whatever weekend he came. But again, that was because I didn't want the backlash from my children to say, Mom never let me go with my dad, or Mom kept me from my dad. You're not going to have that testimony, not about me, not about Mom, because that would not be true. That is not true at all, ever. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come up with something that works. Now, I'm not telling you to leave your home and let somebody stay there. That just worked at the time because my kids were little. They needed their toys. They needed their stuff. He was trying to find people to stay with. We are not finding anybody to stay with. They can stay in their own house. I will go somewhere and I'll find a place. Now, is that altruistic? It could have been. I was just thinking about my children at the time. So I'm sharing all that from that one comment that says, I wouldn't let my mom be by herself. And I understand, but I wasn't lonely, right? Even, like I said, they went with their dad yesterday. It wasn't a lonely thing. It was just, there was nobody else in the house, and that was perfectly fine. Why was that fine, Shakima? Because I have found other things to do outside of my children. When they were smaller, my life surrounded by my children. When they got older, they have their own activities. Jackson's in track, sister works a job. The very first day I didn't have to drive her somewhere, when she got her license and could drive her own self, was like, what am I supposed to do with myself now? And I found a workable situation. I started going to the gym in those hours that I would use. I would find friends, and then I would throw myself into the ministry, and I would have different trips I would go on and different things, because now I can have a life. Right? And I know, Eve, it doesn't work for everybody. I get that. But I wanted this thing to work for real. And here's the other reason. I am of the African American persuasion, just in case y'all didn't know. All you hear is strong, independent Black woman. She just strong, independent Black woman. She just, all these things. I wasn't going to live up to that stereotype for anybody. You were not going to look at me and say, she is just that woman who never wants me to be with my kids. There is no body that should be in my children's lives more than their dad and I. Nobody. Now, what role you choose to take or play is your deal. I had to make sure that I was right with the Lord first, in that back and forth relationship with their dad. And then I had to make sure that I was right with my kids. I actually sometimes have to play the go-between between them and their dad, because sometimes they don't understand certain things. And I'll come back in and I'll say, hey, what about this? Or think about this. Think about this way. But I didn't want that negative stereotype of being the mom who kept their kid away from their dad. That's not me. That's not here. You're never going to have that. You can take them today. What day would you like? Can you give me some time here to get them packed up? Because I am available and they are available. And so I didn't want that negative stereotype because it isn't mature. Anybody can go out and show their behind. Anybody can go outside, talk loud, and act crazy. And don't come rolling up in here when I'm with somebody. You with somebody, do what you needed to do. And then I didn't want, at the same time, I didn't want the man that I'm praying for, the husband that I'm praying for, I didn't want him to have to come into a situation that was volatile. Because like I said before in a different video, anything that I have, this was on a reel, anything that I have that is attached to me, that man gets. And that includes an angry ex-husband. That includes a angry baby daddy who's mad at me because I didn't handle this relationship right between him and the children, or me and him where the children were concerned. I didn't want that for my new husband to have to come in and now have to regulate this man who jumping at me crazy because I made a poor decision. It was up to me to make this work out so that when God sends that man and he comes here, he can look at me and say, wow, you really have done some work here, girl. I mean, you really had me in mind when you were working out this situation, because I've always had my future husband in mind, where anything that had to deal with my ex-husband, because he is going to have to deal with him. But there should never be a time in what we've managed to do now where we go to the same situation. Say my daughter get pregnant and we go to the baby shower. We got to sit on this side. They got to sit on that side and nobody can talk to each other. That's ridiculous. What are we mad about? We have the marriage is done. We know that. The children are well. We know that. So now everybody should be able to come to the same place with as much civility and maturity as we all can muster and manage. If you choose something different, that's you. But what I'm going to do is I'm choosing the high road, which is not to purposefully treat them some type of way. So now that there's all this contention and strife, the Bible says where there's envy and strife, there's every evil work. That's in James. I don't want to deal with any of that. So I'm not envious of anything you have. I don't want anything you have. I have the children 300, and this year, let me see, it will be 362 days a year. And so very good. So when they're with you, they are with you, and you do all of the things. He takes care of all their bills. He takes care of all their food. He takes care of all their arrangements. He takes care of all of it when they're with him. When he brings them back to me, then I take over leadership and I take care of all their bills. I take care of all their food. I take care of all their arrangements, and it just works out. But not everybody has that. And I recognize that. But you got to figure out for yourself why you don't have that. What's better than having a symbiotic relationship with the mom or dad of your children? Now, I get it. It's two people involved. So maybe they don't want it. But again, I would sit down seriously and have those conversations. I have had to sit down and have those conversations and say, listen, this ain't about us. So let's everybody lock in. This is not about us. This is about these kids. So what is it that we want to do? And I never ask or say, this is what I'm doing. I'm saying, what do we want to do? I've always included, right? I've always included. I get to make the final decision. They live here. But what do we want to do that is beneficial for them? A situation came up yesterday. And I'll tell y'all about this because, hey, listen, I ain't got no shame in my game over here. My youngest son is, Jackson is 15. And Jackson and I have been having a difference of opinion about a certain thing. And it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's just he's 15 and I'm 48 and we don't see eye to eye on it. It's fine. The thing is his pants, right? I'm trying to find pants for my 15-year-old son which I don't have to wear men's clothing. I wear girls' clothing. So it was always easier to help my girls find clothes. And then when my older son was younger, his dad lived close enough that he could kind of be involved. And then he went straight to the military. So the military told him what to wear. He wore deserts, or um he wore his uniforms and all those things. So the military told him what to put on. By the time he got out of the military, he was a full-grown man. He didn't need me to help him pick his pants out. My youngest son, on the other hand, needs help to pick his pants out. And then my oldest son was so little, he was a little guy until I think he turned 18, when he finally started to grow. Jackson has been growing for the last 3 years, and he has just grown up so tall. And I've been waiting for the Lord to send me a husband. Really, I have. Because I thought, well, a husband can help me figure this out. I don't know if he's a 32 long, or 36 wide, or 37, what are all the dimensions and all the things. And it's just bothered me, because I have to buy belts, and his pants are gathered, or that he forgets the belt and now they're sagging. And I'm like, oh, you're not about to go out this house looking like you don't have parents. Oh, no, sir. No, sir. Because you have parents. And I don't tell him, you're not about to go out this house looking like you don't have a parent. I always include his dad. You're not about to walk out this house looking like you don't have parents. Both of us. And then when he gets to acting real crazy, I say, let me tell you something. You will not go out of this house and disrespect your father's last name. I said, you have not lived long enough to have any experience to put anything on your name. I said, he gave you his last name, and you're going to act right. You're going to represent him very well, and you're going to represent me very well. So anyway, the pants. I kept thinking, okay, Lord, send me somebody to help me with these pants. Well, as of today, I'm still single, and I don't have any male friends that live close to me that I could ask. I do have one guy friend, and I was going to ask him, but anyway. So the Lord said, just call your ex-husband. So I texted him. I said, because of his job, I have to make sure he's available. So I said, hey, give me a call when you have time. That was yesterday. And so he called me. He was like, yes. So, what's going on? I said, well, I need help with Jackson's pants. I said, I don't know how to do it. I said, I just can't figure it out. I think he's this size. He thinks he's another size. And I just don't know how to do it. I said, and while we at it, let me get all my stuff out while I am at it. But again, I'm not coming at him crazy. Well, if you was here and I wouldn't have to figure out these pant sizes, and you should have been here anyway, and I don't know why. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just saying, listen, I said, and by the way, I said, I don't know how big his neck is. I don't know what type of shirt he need. I said, I would love for him to have a nice pair of pants, a nice button-up shirt with a tie, just because he might have somewhere to go. We had National Honor Society inductions last week, and we had something to work, but he put on his shirt, and then he changed it. I said, why'd you change your shirt? He said, because mom is fitting too tight. Now he's grown out of this. I said, well, this is where I normally take him. I said, I take him to Men's Warehouse, and we go to the clearance rack, and I look and see what I can find. And he says it's fine and it fits okay. I don't know. What I want you to do is just kind of help me. If you could help me. He's like, okay, well, what size shoes you wear? A 13. Child, listen, I don't know what size shoes you wear. I just buy the shoes. So if you want to figure that part out as well, that'll be very helpful. But I said, I'm dealing with the jeans. I said, he goes out the house with his sweatpants on, and that's kind of the uniform of the teenager, but they would not be the uniform of my teenager, because I need him to do something different. And so we had that conversation. I think we probably talked for 30 minutes. And I said, and his hair, I said, the haircut, I want him to have a light brush cut, a little taper fade down, whatever. He wants to have soccer hair. I said, we just are not in agreement. So if you would be available to help me with this, I would appreciate. And by the time we got done with that conversation, we were not in emotions. We were not heated. He didn't feel talked down to. I just said, listen, I need your help, because I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes you got to even take that low road to say, hey, you are the expert on this. I don't have expertise in this area, because the truth is, I'm not a man. I don't wear men's clothing. I don't plan to wear men's clothing. It's just not a thing that I'm trying to do, but you have the experience. Can you help me in this area? And he was like, oh, sure, I got it. No problem. So he went down all the things that he was going to, ask him about or help him with or whatever. And I appreciated that. I fully expect when my son, when he comes back, he's either going to have a nice pair of pants and a shirt, or he'll know exactly what to buy and he'll send the money to buy it. And that is the way it is, because we have made a conversation. We've just made an alliance. We have decided to co-parent one with another because it's better for our children. Instead of them seeing us cut the monkey fool with each other, that's just not what we're doing. It's just not. I saw something the other day, and I won't mention names because I think that's just trashy. But there was a prominent person, and if I mentioned the name, you would know exactly who I'm talking about. So I'm not going to say it. But one of his baby mamas was on a virtual court thing trying to get the child support increased because her child needed all these special things and blah, blah, blah. The judge says, well, did he get tested for the thing you want him to have? And she's like, well, no, but they're going to do it. So you came here early to get the money when we don't even know if he got the thing. Okay. And then the man didn't show up. She was like, well, where he at? And the attorney lady said, well, ma'am, since he didn't have to be here. He said, hey, he don't have any objection. Whatever the court says was what the court, if you want to give her more money, give her more money. Whatever you've deemed necessary, judge, you do it. He wasn't contesting any of it. She's like, well, he's not paying his child support. He's not doing this. He's not doing this. So they pulled up all the paperwork, and there it was right there. It was coming right in. And that's another thing. When child support comes, I made a special request by the court because I did not want another Black man in the system. I didn't. But it didn't work out the way I had planned it. So it worked the way it worked. And I asked the court, I said, will you have him pay the state? I don't want him to pay me because I know what that's going to look like. I need him to pay you and you to pay me. And so that has been a thing. The money is not an issue with us. I don't ask him for one dime extra than what he's judged in child support. He sends extras. Birthdays, they get something. Christmas, they get something. If he hears of something they need or they get, he'll send a little extra something in the mail. When my daughter bought her car, he sent something for that. When my daughter bought her car. Y'all, I'm just talking about, see, maturity says you got to handle this very different. And I don't want it to look like anybody else's. When my daughter was getting ready to buy a car, my youngest daughter, 20 years old, I had been saving some money for her, but then she got a job. She started saving her own money. Well, when we found a car, friend of mine, elderly friend of mine, found a car, and she called me and she said, hey, Shakima, I know this person's selling a car, jump on it. So we talked about it. And then Dad said, because we called him and let him know, he said, well, can I be on the call when y'all go to check out the car? And so here's what we did. We got him on FaceTime, and he was able to chat with the gentleman because there are things about a car that I don't know. And he was able to ask questions, and he was able to negotiate, and he was able to be on FaceTime to look and see what this part looks like and this part looks like. Because I think the thing that is important to me is that everybody feel like they have a part to play in the raising of the children. Even though he lives many, 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 many states from us, he doesn't live anywhere close to us now. He still needs to be actively involved in his children's lives. And it is up to me to bridge that gap. I'm the person. Well, it has been up to me until they became adults. Once they become adults, I'm no longer involved in what they decide to do with their dad. The only person that I have control over or any say in is my youngest son, because he's only 15. Sister is 20. She involves with her dad the way she wants to. My 28-year-old, my 34-year-old, they involve with their dad the way they want to do it. And I don't have anything to say about that. When they get to the age of grown, I let them handle it. But as long as they're under my care and they're not grown, then it is up to me to keep that communication open with their dad. Because they may not be able to understand how to chit chat or how to bring things up, especially my youngest son, because he's the only one who's never lived in the house with his father. Never. 4 months, that's it. And so I have to be the one to help him navigate certain things where his dad is concerned. Now his dad calls him every day. They talk on the phone. They have their own conversations. I'm not playing middleman in their relationship. I'm playing middleman in, hey, we need to make this decision for these kids, or this is what needs to happen. And I'm just letting you know. Even when they were younger, before we had Facebook, and before I was actively involved in all these things, I would do a family newsletter and I would send it to him every single month in the mail. I would do all of the things that he was missing, and I want him to be able to be involved. Here's what you are missing. Because back then they didn't have their own cell phones. They couldn't talk to him. I put in a phone in the house for the kids, so he would have a number for them, because he got remarried fairly quickly. And I never wanted there to be any contention between him and his wife where I was concerned. So you don't have to call my cell phone. I put in a phone line for the children. You can call this number. They know when it rings to pick it up. And if you need to talk to me, then you talk to me then, because I didn't want to cause any problems between him and his new wife. I never wanted to be the person who was coming between them. Now, if she got issues, that's her issue. It don't have nothing to do with. She ain't never going to say, well, you was on the phone talking. No, Sally. He was not. He chose to do what he wanted to do, and I made it avail. So I think there's just a way that we can all be mature in how we deal with our person. Because the truth is, my grandmother would say it so differently, but I'm going to say it as nicely as I can. We laid down with them. And when they was doing all the things that they was grown enough to do, and we was receiving it, we have no problems with them people. It was when they left that we had the problems. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to take away all that intimacy and all the problems that, I don't want you with her, whatever the case. Because if I alienate him, think about this, ladies and guys, there might be a couple men on. If you alienate the person, the other person, you don't know where they're taking your children, and you don't know who they're going to be around. But when you have a symbiotic co-parenting relationship, then they are more apt to run things by you, to at least let you know what the deal is when your kids have to go off. Because I always needed to know where my children were. We had a conversation, it was a couple years ago, I'm sure. He wanted to take the children somewhere, but he didn't want to tell me where they're going. I am so sorry to tell you, but if they get into any trouble, they're going to call me, and I need to know where they are. I'm not coming there to be with you. But if something happens and I need to get to them, I'm not going over 3 people trying to figure out where you are. I'm not calling your mama, your aunt, them, your cousin, them, your brother, them, your daddy, them. I'm not calling nobody but you. And that caused a little bit of issue between us. And he couldn't understand why you want to control it. I am not controlling anything, but I am telling you this. If something happens to my children, I'm not going through anybody to figure out where they are. So you need to let me know where they're going so that I can be aware. Go where you want to go. But if something jumps off crazy and I can't get to you, how am I going to get to them? And that's what I had to explain to him. And again, it's very challenging to understand that nothing's going to happen to them while they're with me. I understand that, but you don't get to control a drunk driver who decides to drink and then get on the road and drive. And the next thing you know, there are issues and problems that you didn't count on, but now I'm having to live through. So you got to make sure, because everybody thinks life is just going to be like, it's just going to be perfect and all the things. Anything can happen at a moment's notice. And I'd much rather, if that be the case, that we were not at each other's throats, because we may have to come back together to make some decisions. And I'd much rather know that we can do that as parents of these children, not friends, as parents of these children. And I think that's another thing that people have to think about. You want to be friends with your ex. We are not friends. We parent because we have children together. There's a whole different relationship that I have with my friends than I have with my ex-husband. We co-parent together because that's the role we play with each other. We're not going out to lunch. We're not going out to dinner. We're not going to hang. We're not going to happy hour. He ain't just coming over to sit and chit chat. That's what I do with my friends. But with my co-parent, we have to make decisions. We have to know what's going on. He has to know about my son's medical stuff. How can I sit here and not let him know about the medical things? Because if Jackson is with you, you need to know about the medical things. Even to the point, y'all, that when I send my kids, well, sister's old enough now, she has her own medical card, but I've had to give him Jackson's medical card. Do you know how naked I felt giving him the medical card? But do I have to worry about my feelings, or do I worry about my son who is prone to asthmatic attacks at any moment, who might need attention? You can have this card and any other card I got, because I have to get past how I feel giving up the card that I pay the insurance for. You don't even pay the insurance. Or do I feel better knowing he has it? If something happens to Jackson, there are no beats skipped. He can get the care Jackson needs and then call me and say, hey, this is where we are. I need you to get here. See what I'm saying? I never wanted for my children to have to work between me and him because we couldn't work out our issues as adults. Adults are supposed to be able to have problem solving, resolution solving skills, right? Conflict resolution skills. And we've learned that over the years. Is it perfect? Of course not. There's still moments, but they're less and less as the years go on, right? So anyway, I wanted to share that because that person felt a type of way for me. And I didn't need that. I didn't need for anybody to feel a type of way because I was spending Thanksgiving alone. I wasn't spending Thanksgiving lonely. There was just not anybody else in the house at the moment. Later on yesterday evening, I slid by my sister's house. My sister was having her family over there. She's my best friend from church, but we're friends. It's her house I would slide by and just hang out to chit chat, right? We're friends. But I slid through there, grabbed a quick plate, had a little dessert, and then I slid on back to the house and all was well, right? So it wasn't like I didn't have people. I was in this depressive state, this depressive mood because I don't have anybody to be with. That really was not the case. None of that was important. It was trying to show those people who were navigating the space that I've navigated for the last 15 years, how to do it. And I keep I hope that I'm helpful in this because Eve, we're not friends. We are parents. And there's a difference between being a friend and being a parent. Now you have some parents that are friends. My dad is he was friends with my mom until my mom passed away. That worked for them. I never wanted my parents to be together ever because it was it was toxic. Just stay away from each other. My mother was in love with my dad until she died. And my father had been married to another woman for 20 plus years. She was so in love with him. I didn't want my parents anywhere together, nowhere. Right? But they were friends. It was always with them. They just had whatever relationship that they had. And it worked out for them. For my ex-husband and I, we respect each other's boundaries. We have civil conversations. We make sure that we are civil in front of the children, even if we have a disagreement. We have learned how to say, hey, listen, I need a minute. Let me get back to you. Let me get back to you. And that's very good. In the very beginning, especially when I found out he was remarried, I had worked on the friendship piece, but his new wife did not desire that. And once you tell me you don't want to be my friend one time, I'm good. I don't need it again. I'm great. She didn't desire a relationship with me in that regard. As far as the children were concerned, she doesn't desire a relationship with my children that I'm aware of, because like I said, they've only been there once in the 15 years. And so that's perfectly fine. If you don't desire that, it's great. It's perfect. I'm okay. So, and again, I didn't want to do anything that would cause him problems when he had to go back home to his spouse. So I just stepped away and I just decided to be a co-parent because that was safer for him. It was easier for him because I didn't want him having to have the third and fourth conversation about why he was over here being friendly with me. It wasn't one of those battles I was willing to fight. And it's worked out. Honestly, it's worked out. I have a very good relationship with his family because I probably have spent more time with them getting the kids back and forward and doing, because like I said, he moved away. We all still live here in North Carolina. So I've had much good relationship with his family. Worked out because I didn't keep the kids away from them either. I said, hey, these are your relatives. If you want to be involved, just let me know how I can facilitate that. And it takes a lot on a person to be, and I'm not perfect, y'all. I'm not. So don't get that. I'm not saying I've done everything right. I've had my moments of on my nerve. But I had to think about the fact that this is my children's father. He's always going to be their father. It's never going to be different. And so if that is the case, Shakima, you got to make a decision about how you want to move forward in maturity. I'm a class act. I'm a classy woman. I am a mature woman. I don't have to have the last word. I don't have to be arguing with you. I am not going to argue with you in public, period, at all the end. No, I'm not. I'm not going to argue with you. I've done all the arguing I plan to do. I mean, I have argued back there. I'm not doing it now. Right. And so he respects that. I respect him as their dad. I always try to make sure that they stay in contact. I always make sure, did you call your dad? Did you tell your dad? Just because they don't always think about it. And so I hope he appreciates it. He used to, there were years in the past when he would send me a Mother's Day card. Thank you for being the mother of my children. You know, we don't do that anymore. I haven't received that. And I never do holidays. The kids are on their own. But that's because we didn't grow up celebrating holidays in my family. It's not that I don't want them to do something for their dad, but we just never celebrated holidays in my family. So it does not cross my mind to do anything. Now they're older, they do their own stuff and I don't have to worry about it. And I like what Tiffany said, her mom and dad are friends, and that's good. Some relationships can get to that part. Some can't. But even if we can't get to friendship, can we get to co-parenting? Because at the end of the day, I want my children to have a good thought about both their parents. I don't want them to think, oh, mom was great and dad was a dog. I want them to think positively about both of their parents. That I just need to know that they can look at both of us and say, hey, they both did the best they could. Whatever we did was the best we could do for them. And we didn't forget them along the way. So anyway, y'all, I just wanted to share a couple of those things because I think here's the thing, right? I was talking to somebody yesterday and I'm finished. Here's the thing. The worst thing the enemy ever did was to come between the family. See, marriage is God's idea, and it's a good idea. But if I can separate the family, then I come against the community. And when the community goes down, now you have lawlessness. You got people doing whatever. You got folks just coming in people's houses, doing all kinds of random stuff because there is no community. There aren't any men there. And so a lot of us who are single moms with no active dad or parent in the household, you know, that's what happens is begin to bring our communities down. And so I never want to see that. I want to help build up people, build back better, right? I want to build people up. I want to build up the women to be very secure in who we are, but not having to be who they are. I've never been their dad. I've never been a man. I've never been, don't celebrate me on Father's Day. I'm a mom. I've always been a mom. I don't celebrate Father's Day. I'm not their mama and their daddy. I can never be that. I've never had that. I'm their parent. I'm their mom. They have a father. And so I I want to build up women who are secure in who we are, who understand the role that these people play. And if the Lord were to choose to put another person in their homes, I want us to be able to keep and hold on to that relationship. We should not be going through 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 12 husbands. We shouldn't. We shouldn't be going past one. But I had one. I'm praying the Lord give me another one. But I shouldn't have 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. This ain't a revolving door, honey. This ain't the hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. Come on now. But I think when we learn how to govern ourselves and other people learn how to govern themselves, and everybody knows what role we play, then I think we can build community back, even though the dad may not be in the home. And for some parents, it's the mom that's not in the home. You find that less and less. It's rare that the mom is not there, but you do have that. And so I want to make sure that people can have those conversations. Rhonda said, I love that you were able to discuss it amicably. Good communication is essential. Is definitely essential. But in the very beginning, it was rough because he had a lot of people in his ear telling him stuff. And I said, listen, I don't care what anybody else has to say. These are our children. We need to decide for our children. And then we were able to work our way through. Sometimes I almost think sometimes like I wish I could bring him on because I want people to know it's not just me saying it, but I want to protect his right to privacy. He does not wish to be on social media. I don't even know if he knows what I do. I'm sure somebody's told him, but whatever. But I don't want to make it sound like I'm the perfect person. Like I don't never have no problems. I just did everything perfectly. That's not true. I have said some things. I have been heated on occasion, but at the very back of your mind, you always think about the children. What are they going to say? I don't want to draw my last breath and my children, when I'm gone, say, well, mama didn't let us, and we didn't know who our dad was. And mom, they're not going to say that about me. If they don't know about their dad, that's their choosing. They are going to know that he is who he is and he did what he did and he does what he does for them and all of the things. He does the best he can. And so I try to help with that if I'm able. But I think that's the mature thing to do. The immature thing to do would make it all his fault. And it wasn't all his fault. There were a lot of things he was at fault for, but there were a lot of things that I was at fault for as well. Had I known some stuff going in, I never would have went in. It would have just been me and Shamika, my oldest daughter, because I'd already had her by the time I met him. It would have just been us. Had I known some things I didn't know. And so I think you have to be forthcoming with information so people can have the first rights of refusal. Because I would have refused. I would have definitely refused. But there were some things I didn't know till way later in the game. And when I found out, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad you told me. I'm out of here. Very good. So anyway, I hope that it was helpful to somebody. And I don't remember the lady's name who messaged that, but I did tell her, it's perfect because at Christmas, it'll be my turn. It'll be my turn. And we just learned how to navigate. I didn't want to give up my whole Christmas day, but I can understand how he felt not being with his children for Christmas. He was always with the kids for Christmas. And so you just acclimate, okay? At noon, you can come at noon. And he would come. I remember one year he came and he didn't have anywhere to take the kids. He wanted to see them. He had nowhere to take them. So I stayed in my bedroom the whole day. At noon, I went in my bedroom. I closed the door, had my shows on, and I just did all the things. And he did whatever he's done with the kids. He's come before. He drives big rigs. He's come before and parked his truck. He's driven my car to take the kids and do stuff. Why make it harder when you don't have to make it harder? I think that's the question. Why make it harder when you don't have to make it harder? And I never wanted it for my kids. So anywho, y'all, love you guys. Like the video, share the video. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part. We appreciate you. I hope it was helpful. And if it wasn't, just charge my head and not my heart because I want people to be well. I want families to be well. It's the assignment and the burden that God has put on me in my heart. So I just try to be obedient. I'm supposed to be on vacation and not doing all these lives. And here I am live again. Anyway, I'm going to watch chick flicks right now. So there it is. Happy holidays. Enjoy the rest of your leftovers, because I just ate my leftovers that people don't think I can cook, but whatever. You weren't invited. So anywho, love you guys, and I'll see